The first thing I saw when I opened my eyes was the corner of a pale blue receipt trembling between my fingers, and for one breathless second, I thought the afterlife had a terrible sense of humor. The paper was thin, glossy, still warm from the contest kiosk, with the faint chemical smell of fresh ink clinging to it like a warning. Receipt no. A 17440. Dawn claim window. 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. prize must be claimed in person with original receipt and matching entry ID. I knew every word because in my last life, those same words had been read aloud in the auditorium while everyone stared at me like I was a thief. In my last life, I had trusted the golden girl with that receipt for exactly 17 minutes. 17 minutes was all it took for her to steal my future, claim my prize, turn my proof into her weapon, and leave me standing beneath the stage lights with empty hands while she cried prettily into a microphone. I remembered her tears. I remembered her pearl hair clip. I remembered her voice shaking as she said, "I don't want to accuse anyone, but I think she tried to copy my work." I remembered the judges' faces hardening, my classmates whispering, my mother's call going unanswered because I was too ashamed to pick up, and the school's disciplinary letter arriving before sunset. Then came the debt collectors at my mother's bakery, the scholarship cancellation, the viral post, the quiet, the rain, and the truck headlights blooming white across the street the night I ran out with no umbrella and no reason to keep running. Yet now, somehow, I was back in the West Wing lobby of Hanyang Arts Academy, sitting on the cold marble bench beside the contest kiosk, 24 hours before the dawn claim that had ruined me. My uniform sleeves were damp from the summer storm outside. My sketch tube leaned against my knee. My phone screen showed 9:43 p.m., June 17th, the night before the Aurora Student Design Contest results would be finalized. And across the lobby, reflected perfectly in the glass trophy cabinet, I saw her walking toward me with that soft, practiced smile that had fooled me once. Viana Seo, the Academy's golden girl, moved like the building had been designed around her. White cardigan over her uniform blouse, honey brown hair in loose waves, competition badges pinned neatly to her bag, a ribbon at her wrist, and behind her, 3 girls who laughed whenever she breathed. In my last life, I had smiled back. In this life, I folded the receipt once, slid it inside my shoe under the insole, and looked up just as she said, "Mina, you finally printed it? Good. Let me hold it so you don't lose it again." The funny thing about Rebirth is that people expect thunder, prophecy, maybe a mirror scene where the heroine touches her younger face and sobs. I did none of that. My first miracle was not crying. My second miracle was keeping my voice lazy when Vienna stopped in front of me, her pale fingers already reaching for my hand, as if my proof belonged in her possession by natural law. "Hold what?" I asked, and the words tasted strange, because the old Mina would never have pretended not to understand. The old Mina had believed obedience was the same thing as kindness. The old Mina had been grateful that Viana Seo, winner of 3 National Youth Awards, daughter of the Aurora Foundation's deputy director, queen of our academy's design department, bothered to call her by name. The old Mina had let Vienna borrow pencils, files, charging cables, portfolio sleeves, passcodes, and finally the one receipt that mattered more than all of them combined. But I was not the old Mina anymore. I was the girl who had watched her mother kneel in front of a landlord because a scholarship disappeared overnight. I was the girl whose design had hung under another girl's name while strangers commented that I looked like a jealous nobody. I was the girl who had died knowing the truth had existed on a strip of blue paper she was too trusting to protect. Vienna's smile flickered only once. Most people would have missed it, but death improves eyesight in inconvenient ways. "Your contest receipt," she said gently, turning her head just enough for her audience to see how patient she was being. "The kiosk prints only one original. You're always losing things. Remember your midterm access card? I'll keep it safe until morning." One of her friends, Jisoo, giggled. "Honestly, Mina, you should thank her. If Vivi offers to manage your stuff, that's basically a blessing." A blessing. Last time, I had laughed at that and handed over my future. This time, I lifted my sketch tube, stood, and brushed invisible dust from my skirt. I already put it somewhere safe. Vienna's eyes dropped to my bag, then to my blazer pocket, then to the folder under my arm. Too fast. Too hungry. Then she smiled wider. Great. Where? I smiled back, just as softly. Somewhere even I can't accidentally hand it to the wrong person. The first pattern break came 6 seconds later when Vienna's phone rang because in my last life, her phone had not rung until after I gave her the receipt. I remembered the original sequence with a clarity that made my skin feel too tight. She would ask for the receipt. I would hesitate. Her phone would buzz with a call from her father, and she would say, "See? I'm busy too, but I'm still helping you." And guilt would push my hand open. But this time my hand was empty, so when her ringtone chimed, that perfect little smile slipped again. She turned away and answered under her breath, "Dad, not now." I could not hear the rest, but I watched her shoulders stiffen. In my previous life, I had thought Vienna's pressure came from generosity. Now I understood it came from deadlines. Someone needed that original receipt before dawn. Someone had promised a prize claim they did not yet have proof for. Someone had perhaps already told sponsors, teachers, and parents that the Golden Girl's victory was secured. I walked toward the dormitory corridor while pretending not to notice Jasud trailing behind me like a badly trained spy. At the corner, instead of going to my room, I turned abruptly into the vending machine alcove and crouched as if tying my shoelace. Jasud overshot the turn, squeaked on the polished floor, and pretended to study a poster about plagiarism policies. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I had spent my first life fearing clever monsters, and now that I was watching them closely, some of their tricks looked embarrassingly cheap. I pulled the receipt from under my insole, checked that the ink had not smudged, then slid it into the hollow metal barrel of my mechanical pencil. Months earlier, I had broken that pencil and kept using it because I could not afford the imported ones Vienna threw away when the grip color bore her. The barrel unscrewed cleanly. The receipt fit if folded tight enough. I sealed it with the eraser cap and placed the pencil in the side loop of my sketch tube, the one place no one in our department would look because everyone knew Mina Han was poor enough to guard her pencils like jewelry. Then, because hiding proof was not enough anymore, I bought a bottle of barley tea from the vending machine, waited until Jasud pretended to leave, and held my phone up to the black reflection of the machine screen. I recorded myself saying the receipt number, the time, the kiosk location, the entry title, and one sentence I wished I had said before dying. The original receipt is with me, and anyone claiming otherwise is lying. The contest was supposed to be simple. Every year, the Aurora Foundation sponsored a student design competition across the city. Posters, packaging, public service campaigns, wearable art, installation proposals, anything that could be pitched to a corporate panel and photographed for scholarship brochures. Our academy treated the contest like a second entrance exam. Winners received tuition support, a paid summer internship, studio access, and most importantly, public credibility. For students like Vienna, credibility was another jewel in an already full box. For students like me, it was oxygen. My mother's bakery in Yeonam had survived on red bean buns, birthday cakes, and miracles since my father disappeared with half our savings. My tuition had been held together by partial scholarships and my mother pretending not to limp after 16-hour shifts. I had entered the contest with a packaging redesign for unsold bakery goods, a modular paper sleeve system that let small bakeries repackage day-old bread into discounted, second-morning boxes instead of throwing them away. It was not glamorous, not golden, not something Vienna would have designed. It had grease-proof folds, hand-drawn warmth charts, a cost table, and a social campaign called Still Warm Tomorrow. My mother had cried when she saw the prototype, then slapped my arm and said tears were bad for laminated paper. In my last life, the judges had loved it. They loved it so much that they awarded first prize to Vienna CO, whose version somehow appeared under the title Golden Morning, Sustainable Luxury Bakery Packaging for Boutique Brands. She had polished my poverty into aesthetics and sold it back to rich people. The only thing connecting the first submitted entry to the final kiosk confirmation was the original receipt printed after late verification. Without it, I was just a quiet girl accusing a beloved winner. With it, she became a fraud. That was why she needed it. That was why, after I hid the real receipt, Every soft thing about the night began sharpening around me. At 10:15 p.m., my roommate Nari texted me 3 skull emojis and the words, "Do not come up. Vienna is in our room." My thumb paused over the screen. In the first life, I had gone straight upstairs after giving Vienna the receipt, taken a shower, and fallen asleep while she kept it safe. I had never known she searched my room, because she had not needed to.
Now she did.
I stepped into the stairwell, not going up, just listening through the concrete echo. 2 floors above, footsteps moved quickly, too quickly for casual visiting. A drawer slammed. Nari's voice rose, bright with fake innocence. "Vivi, I told you, Mina's not here. Why would her contest receipt be in my sock basket?" Vienna laughed, a bell wrapped around a blade. "I'm not searching." I dropped my earring. Another drawer opened. My jaw tightened. Nari had no reason to protect me. We had been friendly in the way roommates become friendly when sharing a mini fridge and exam panic, but in my last life, after the accusation, she had avoided eye contact like everyone else. Yet here she was, stalling a girl who could ruin social lives with a sigh. Rebirth had given me memories, but it had not turned everyone else into villains or saints. That was the first strange comfort of the night. People were not fixed. Circumstances squeezed them, fear bent them. But sometimes a person who failed you once could surprise you when given a different scene. I texted back, "Keep her there 3 minutes." Then I went down instead of up, crossed the courtyard through rain so fine it looked like static, and entered the old print studio from the back. The contest rules said the original receipt could not be reprinted, but they did not say a frightened girl could not create a decoy ugly enough to tempt a thief. I still remembered the receipt's layout from both lives. Blue thermal paper, black QR square, timestamp, entry code, footer warning. I also remembered something Vienna did not. The original had a faint watermark visible only when held against light, 3 tiny aurora stars embedded diagonally behind the receipt number. The decoy did not need to fool the judges. It only needed to fool Vienna long enough to make her confident. By 10:47 p.m., I had printed 3 test strips, ruined 2 with misaligned QR blocks, and made one that looked almost right if you were desperate, arrogant, and reading under dorm hallway lights. I changed 1 digit in the claim code, not enough to be obvious at a glance, enough to fail at the verification desk. Then I folded it the way I had folded the real one, and slid it into the outer pocket of my old canvas bag, leaving the zipper half open. I did not like bait. In stories, traps look glamorous because the heroine always controls the timing. In real life, bait makes your stomach cold because you are inviting someone dangerous to come close. But I needed more than survival. If I simply kept the real receipt and claimed the prize, Vienna could still cry mistake, confusion, misunderstanding. She could still say she had been helping. She could still bury me under her father's influence. I needed her fingerprints on her own greed. So I set my bag on a table in the empty print studio, turned off the main light, left the side lamp glowing, and hid in the storage closet behind stacks of old foam boards that smelled like glue and dust. My phone camera watched through a slit. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. My knees ached. Rain tapped against the high windows. Somewhere in the building, a janitor coughed. I began to wonder if I had overestimated her urgency. Then the door opened without a knock. Vienna slipped inside alone. No cardigan now, hair tied back, face bare of its public sweetness. She did not call my name. She did not check the corners. She walked straight to my bag like she had a map of my habits, unzipped the outer pocket, and pulled out the decoy receipt with 2 fingers. For 1 second, the side lamp lit her face from below, and I saw no guilt there. Only relief. That was the moment something inside me finally stopped grieving the friendship I had imagined. A person who steals while smiling at your empty chair is not confused. She held the decoy to her chest, whispered, "Stupid girl," and left. I stayed in the closet until my breathing calmed, because rage is loud even when your mouth is shut. My first instinct was to run after her, shove the door open, play the video in her face, and demand she say my name without pretending. But rebirth had not brought me back to win an argument in a print studio. It had brought me back to reach dawn with the real receipt. So I waited. I waited long enough for her to climb the stairs. I waited long enough for Nari to text. She left. Also, your underwear drawer is traumatized. I almost smiled, then covered my mouth because smiling felt too much like hope, and hope was dangerous before evidence. I retrieved my bag, deleted nothing, backed up the video to my student cloud, then backed it up again to an email scheduled to send to myself at 4:45 a.m. with a subject line, "Do not trust anyone before dawn." In my first life, every disaster had relied on one habit. I kept proof in places other people could touch. This time, proof multiplied. Proof hid in pencil barrels, cloud folders, timed emails, security cameras, and one person I had not expected to involve until I saw the janitor near the lobby. Mr. Beck had worked at Hanyang since before half our teachers graduated. He was famous for pretending not to hear gossip while hearing absolutely everything. In my last life, after my fall, he had left a plastic bag of bakery bread outside my dorm door without a note. I never thanked him. Tonight, I found him near the recycling bins and bowed. "Sir, can I ask something strange?" He looked at my wet hair, my shaking hands, my canvas bag clutched like a shield, and said, "At this school, strange is usually expensive." I told him I needed the print studio hallway security footage preserved from 10:40 to 11 o'clock. I did not tell him everything. I did not need to. He watched my face for a long moment, then scratched his chin. "Official request?" he asked. "Not yet." "Dangerous?" "Maybe." He sighed the way adults sigh when they recognize a mess created by adults pretending children are dramatic. "I will not erase anything," he said. "But, little student, do not stand alone under bright lights. Bright lights make shadows behind you." His words followed me upstairs. In the dorm, Nari sat cross-legged on her bed surrounded by my folded clothes, looking both guilty and furious. She said she dropped an earring. She announced before I could speak. "In your exam sock pouch. Then in your toothpaste bag. Then under my pillow, apparently, because I am known for stealing rich girls' earrings in my sleep." I closed the door and leaned against it. For a second, the room tilted. This was where I had once woken to applause videos of Vienna claiming my prize. This was where I had checked my empty bag and thought maybe I really had misplaced the receipt. This was where panic had made me stupid. Nari's face softened. "Mina, what is going on?" I could have lied. I almost did. But loneliness had killed me almost as surely as the truck had. In my last life, I had tried to defend myself after everyone had already chosen a story. This time, I needed at least one witness before the story began. I took the mechanical pencil from my sketch tube, unscrewed the barrel, and showed her the real receipt. Her eyes widened. "You hid it in a pencil? That is either genius or deeply concerning." "Both," I said. Then I showed her the video of Vienna taking the decoy from my bag. Nari watched it once with her mouth open, then again with her mouth shut, which was more frightening. "She's going to claim with a fake?" "I think so." "And when it fails?" "She'll improvise." Nari looked at the door, as if Vienna might ooze through the keyhole. Vivi improvising is worse than Vivi planning. She was right. I knew that from experience. Vienna was most dangerous when cornered because she never looked cornered. She looked wounded. She turned every accusation into an attack on her kindness. She made people feel cruel for doubting her. Nari handed the pencil back carefully, like it contained a live insect. "What do you need?" In my first life, no one had asked me that until it was too late. My throat tightened, but I forced the answer out. "Stay awake until dawn. If I disappear, send that video to the contest office, Professor Lim, and the student council group chat." Nari stared. "Disappear?" "I'm hoping that's just trauma talking." She did not laugh. Neither did I. At midnight, the second pattern break hit. The fire alarm screamed through the dormitory, slicing the room open with red light. Nari jumped so hard she knocked over her water bottle. My whole body went cold because this had not happened in my last life. Not here. Not now. The hallway erupted with doors, slippers, complaints, girls clutching blankets and phones. A voice over the speaker ordered everyone to evacuate to the courtyard. Nari grabbed my wrist. "Receipt." I already had the pencil in my fist. We moved with the crowd, my wet hair drying into tangled waves, my heart beating against my ribs like it wanted out. In the stairwell, someone shoved from behind. Not hard enough to be obvious, just enough that my shoulder hit the railing and my sketch tube slipped. A hand reached for it. I twisted, saw Jisoo's pink nails, and slammed the tube against my chest. "Careful," she said sweetly. "You almost dropped it." "No," I said. "You almost picked it up." Her expression changed so fast it was like watching a mask blink. Then people pushed between us, and she vanished downward. Outside, rain had thinned into mist. Students gathered under umbrellas, grumbling as resident staff checked floors. Across the courtyard, near the gym entrance, Vianna stood beneath a transparent umbrella held by one of her friends. She looked straight at my hand. Not my face, not my bag, my hand. Did she know the decoy was fake?
No.
Her posture was too calm.
But she knew I still valued something.
That was enough. The fire alarm was declared a sensor malfunction after 18 minutes. Everyone groaned and shuffled back inside. I did not move until Nari whispered, "Mina."
"The old music building," I said. "What?"
"If I go back in, they'll keep trying." "So, we don't go back in?" "Not through the front." Nari stared at me, then grinned suddenly, wildly. "I have never liked you more than right now." We peeled away from the crowd and cut through the covered walkway toward the old music building, where practice rooms stayed unlocked for orchestra students who treated sleep like a rumor. If Vianna expected me in the dorm, I would become a wrong answer. The old music building smelled like rosin, dust, and forgotten ambition. We hid in practice room 3B because the piano had a broken middle C and no serious musician willingly booked it. Nari dragged 2 chairs against the door, while I sat on the floor under the mirror and checked the receipt again. Still there. Still real. The watermark stars glimmered faintly when I held it to the emergency exit light. For the first time since waking, I let myself remember the exact dawn of my previous life. I had arrived at the auditorium at 5:12 a.m., hair still damp, breathless, because Vianna had texted me the wrong meeting point first. She had stood at the claim desk in a cream blazer, receipt in hand, surrounded by judges and cameras. When I shouted that the design was mine, she turned slowly, eyes filling before I finished my sentence. "Mina, why are you doing this?" she asked, and the room changed shape around her pain. Professor Lim pulled me aside. Jisoo showed screenshots of me, admitting I was jealous, edited from late-night messages where I had confessed fear about losing. Vianna's father spoke privately to the contest director. The receipt vanished into an evidence folder I was never allowed to see. By noon, my name was attached to the word misconduct. By evening, my mother's bakery had 1-star reviews calling us scammers. By night, I was standing at a crosswalk in rain, thinking of the receipt more than the headlights. In practice room 3B, I pressed the real paper flat against my knee and made myself speak the memory aloud. Not all of it, just enough for Nari to understand why my hands would not stop shaking. She did not interrupt. When I finished, she said, very quietly, "You died." I looked at her. There are moments when lying is kinder and moments when lying is cowardice. I chose neither. "I think so." Nari inhaled, then nodded as if I had told her the cafeteria's soup was poisoned. Okay. Mina. Vianna once convinced a teacher that a girl plagiarized her own self-portrait because Vivi had emotionally inspired it first. Rebirth is not even the strangest part of this school. A laugh escaped me before I could stop it, small and cracked, and Nari smiled like she had pulled me back from a ledge by one finger. At 1:08 a.m., Vianna texted me.
"Mina, I'm worried."
Jisoo said you looked upset during evacuation. Are you avoiding me? I stared at the message until the letters blurred. In my old life, a text like that would have sent me running to reassure her. Tonight it looked like a fishing line laid gently on water. Another message followed. I found something from your bag earlier. I think you dropped it. My pulse slowed. She wanted me to confirm the theft without saying theft. Nari leaned over my shoulder and mouthed, "Psycho." I typed, "What did you find?" The typing bubble appeared, vanished, appeared again. Then, your contest receipt. You're lucky I noticed before someone else took it. My mouth went dry, not from fear this time, but from the eerie pleasure of watching a liar enter a room I had already measured. I typed, "Thank you. Can you bring it to the auditorium at dawn?"
A pause.
Then, of course. I'll protect it. Nari made a choking sound. She actually wrote that? She needed to.
Why?
I turned the phone toward the cracked piano, as if the sleeping building deserved to witness it too. Because now she can't say she picked it up accidentally and forgot. She's admitting she has what she thinks is my receipt and plans to bring it to the claim. Nari's eyes widened. You are terrifying. I wanted to say I had learned from the best, but the sentence tasted too bitter. Instead, I took screenshots, backed them up, and placed the phone face down. The night stretched. Nari dozed in bursts, head against the wall, while I sat awake listening to the building breathe. Every creak became footsteps. Every distant laugh became a threat. At 2:20, my mother called. My mother never called after midnight unless something was wrong. In the old timeline, I had missed her morning call because I was arguing with Professor Lim. Now I answered before the first ring finished. Mom, static, then her tired voice. Mina, are you awake? A young lady from your school called the bakery. My blood chilled. What young lady? She said she was your friend. Very polite. She asked if you had been under stress. She said tomorrow might be overwhelming and maybe I should encourage you to rest instead of attending the ceremony. Through the phone, I heard trays sliding, the oven fan, my mother's life continuing in the fragile space Vienna wanted to invade. Mom, I said, each word careful. Listen to me. No matter who calls, I must attend at dawn. Do not believe anyone who says I withdrew. My mother went silent. Then her voice hardened in a way I had heard only when landlords tried to raise rent mid-contract. Did someone touch your work? I closed my eyes. They're trying. She exhaled. Then you go. I will close the bakery for 1 hour and come too. Panic shot through me. No, you don't have to, Mina. One word. Not loud. Final. I have watched you carry heavy things quietly because you thought quiet daughters were easier to love. I am telling you now, I did not raise you to be convenient for thieves. I cried after she hung up, but only for 11 seconds because Nari woke and threatened to slap me supportively if I wasted hydration before battle. By 3 a.m., the campus had gone quiet in the sinister way expensive schools do after scandals begin forming. Lights glowed in faculty offices near the administrative block. The auditorium doors would open at 4:30 for contest staff. Claim verification began at 5 o'clock sharp. The winner would be announced publicly at 5:40 after the receipt match, because Aurora loved symbolic dawn ceremonies and hated student sleep. In my last life, I had thought the timing was romantic. Now it seemed designed by people who knew exhausted teenagers made bad decisions. I spread everything on the practice room floor. Real receipt inside pencil, screenshots, theft video, cloud backups, contest submission confirmation email, prototype photos with timestamps, cost table drafts, and the original napkin sketch from my mother's bakery, stained with red bean paste. That napkin mattered. In the previous timeline, Vienna's version looked too polished to disprove. Now, I wanted the judges to see the idea before it became luxury packaging, before she bleached the flour from its hands. Nari helped me assemble a thin folder labeled entry A17440, supporting materials. This looks like evidence for court, she said. Good. Do you think it'll go that far? If her father tries to bury it, yes. Nari stopped sliding papers into sleeves. You're really going to fight everyone? I thought of my mother's knees, Mr. Beck's warning, Vienna whispering stupid girl to an empty room, and the version of me who never made it past the crosswalk. No, I said. I'm going to make everyone fight the proof. That sounded braver than I felt. My body still remembered losing. My skin still expected humiliation. Rebirth did not erase fear. It only gave fear a map. At 3:35, we left the music building through the side exit, moving under the covered walkway, while the sky above Seoul turned from black to a deep bruised blue. Dawn had not arrived, but its pressure was already there, pushing against the edges of the world. Somewhere beyond campus, delivery scooters whined to life. Bakers opened shutters. Buses sighed at stops. The city was waking, and with it, the hour that had once killed me began again. We reached the auditorium plaza at 3:52 and found the third pattern break waiting under a street lamp. Professor Lim. In my last life, he had been the first adult to tell me to calm down before making accusations. He taught design ethics with beautiful slides and practiced helplessness. Now he stood near the locked glass doors in a long beige coat, holding coffee and looking older than his carefully dyed hair. When he saw me, his brows rose.
Mina.
You're early. His tone held surprise, not warmth. Behind him, two contest assistants arranged signage. A banner snapped lightly in the pre-dawn wind. Aurora Student Design Awards, Claim Ceremony. I bowed, lower than necessary because courtesy is useful armor. Professor, I wanted to be present before verification. His gaze flicked to my folder. Nervous. Prepared. Something in my answer made him look at me more closely. Nari stood beside me with her arms folded, radiating roommate violence. Professor Lim cleared his throat. Vienna mentioned you seemed distressed tonight. She was concerned you might misunderstand some contest procedures. You know, only the receipt holder can claim, but that does not always mean. The rules say original receipt and matching entry ID. I interrupted. Not loudly. Loud girls become dramatic in other people's stories. They also say disputes must be documented before public announcement. His coffee paused halfway to his mouth. You've read the full rules? Several times. In my last life, I had skimmed them because I trusted the school to enforce fairness. Never skim contracts written by people who already know how they plan to escape them. Professor Lim looked past me, perhaps hoping Vienna would appear and restore the script. She did not. My mother did. She came through the plaza gate wearing her bakery apron under a raincoat, hair pinned badly, cheeks flushed from hurrying. In one hand, she carried a paper bag of warm chestnut buns. In the other, an umbrella, like a weapon. The sight of her nearly broke me. In the old timeline, she had first heard of the scandal from a parent customer who asked if our family cheated because we were poor. This time, she walked straight to me, took my face in her flour-dusted hand, and said, "Did you eat?" I shook my head. She shoved a bun into my mouth before acknowledging anyone else. Then she looked at Professor Lim. "My daughter is prepared," she said. "Please make sure the adults are too." There are few things more satisfying than watching a man who enjoys soft authority encounter a mother who has lifted flour sacks heavier than his conscience. Professor Lim bowed too quickly. "Mrs. Han, of course. We take integrity very seriously." My mother's expression did not move. Good. Then taking it seriously 1 hour earlier should not be difficult. Nari coughed into her sleeve to hide a laugh. I swallowed the chestnut bun around the knot in my throat. The auditorium doors opened at 4:20. Inside, the stage smelled of polish and rented flowers. Posters from finalist entries lined the walls under cloth covers. Claim desks had been set near the front, each with a scanner, laptop, and 2 staff members. A long table held name cards for judges. The prize trophy, a glass sunrise on a black base, stood beneath the spotlight. In my last life, Vienna had held it with both hands and tilted it toward cameras like she was offering them daylight. I forced myself to look away. We sat in the second row, not the back where guilty people hide. My mother placed the folder on her lap. Nari watched the doors. At 4:38, Vienna arrived. She wore the cream blazer from my memory, gold buttons, pearl clip, soft makeup designed to look like no makeup. For 1 second, the auditorium folded into the past so completely that I tasted rainwater and shame. Then I noticed the decoy receipt tucked inside her clear document sleeve, visible just enough for me to see the wrong digit. My fear turned into a blade. She walked toward me, with her public smile already lit. "Mina," she said, voice sweet enough to rot teeth. "You scared me. Why did you leave the dorm?" I stood. I couldn't sleep. Poor thing. She reached into her sleeve and lowered her voice. "I kept your receipt safe. Let's talk before the claim desk opens, okay?" We don't want confusion.
There it was, we.
She wanted a private corner, one last chance to make me either surrender or look unstable. My mother stood beside me. Vienna's smile adjusted by 0.5 millimeter.
Emeris.
I didn't know you were coming. Neither did the thief, I assume, my mother said. The silence around us snapped tight. Vienna's friends reacted before Vienna did. Jessa gasped as if my mother had slapped a nun. Another girl whispered, "How rude." Professor Lim appeared from nowhere, face pale. "Mrs. Han, please, let's maintain decorum." My mother looked at him. Decorum is what people request when truth arrives underdressed. I had never loved her more. Vienna placed one hand over her heart. Her eyes shimmered, not with tears yet, but with the promise of them. "I don't understand. Mina, did you tell your mother something strange? I only helped you. You dropped your receipt." "Did I?" I asked. "Yes," she said, turning slightly so the gathering staff could hear. "I found it in the print studio. I was going to return it." "In the print studio?" I repeated. "From my bag." A tiny pause. Too tiny for most people. Huge for me. "It was near your bag." "Inside the outer pocket?" Her lashes fluttered. "Mina, why are you interrogating me?" The word interrogating was chosen for the audience. It made me harsh, her fragile. In my last life, I had rushed to explain. This time, I let the silence do work. Then I said, "Because I never gave you permission to touch my bag." A staff member at the claim desk looked up. Vienna's fingers tightened on her document sleeve. "You're upset. I get it. Contest stress can make anyone sensitive." Nari stepped forward. "Contest stress doesn't unzip bags." Just snapped. "You don't even know what happened." Nari smiled. "Actually, I know what drawers sound like when your friend searches them." Professor Lim raised both hands. "Enough. The claim process will clarify ownership. Vienna, Mina, please approach separately when your entries are called." Vienna's eyes found mine then, and for one heartbeat, the golden girl vanished. What looked out from behind her face was furious, flat, and shocked that I had not followed the old choreography. Then she tilted her chin and walked to the front row reserved for finalists. I sat back down, but my knees trembled so badly my mother put one hand over mine. "You are not the one shaking," she murmured. "The lie is." At 5 a.m., the first claim window opened. The auditorium lights dimmed except for the verification desks and stage glow. Outside the tall windows, the sky had softened from blue-black to silver. Contest staff called finalists in order of entry category, each student presenting their original receipt, ID card, and a short verbal confirmation of entry title. Most claims were boring, which made the room more tense. A jewelry student cried because she forgot her ID, but her teacher found it in a tote bag. A photography finalist discovered coffee had blurred his receipt, and the scanner still read it after 3 tries. Each beep from the verification machine sounded like a judge's gavel. I watched Vienna watch the scanner. She sat straight, hands folded, decoy receipt hidden beneath her portfolio, face serene except for one detail. Her right thumb rubbed the paper edge again and again. She was rehearsing calm. I knew because I was too. At 5:22, the assistant called, "Entry A 17440, Sustainable Packaging, Finalist Claimant please approach." Vienna rose before my name was spoken. The room responded naturally, almost gratefully. Of course the golden girl would be finalist claimant. Of course the cream blazer belonged at the desk. Of course the story would arrange itself around her. She walked forward with the decoy receipt and placed it before the staff member, like a queen offering a treaty. "Vienna CO," she said. "Entry title, Golden Morning." The staff member typed, scanned, frowned. The scanner gave a low negative tone. Not the cheerful beep. Not even neutral. A blunt little sound, ugly as a door lock. Vienna's smile held. Maybe the paper curled. The staff member flattened it and scanned again. Negative. The second staff member leaned over. "The code doesn't match the registered entry." Vienna gave a small laugh. "That's impossible." My mother's hand tightened around mine. Nari whispered, "Dawn has entered the chat, and I almost lost my composure. The staff member examined the receipt. This appears to be A17448, not A17440. Vienna blinked once. A beautiful blink. An expensive blink. No, she said softly. Mina must have given me the wrong one. Every head turned. There it was. Not panic, not confession.
Pivot.
Vienna turned slowly toward me, eyes already wet. Mina, why would you do that? Her voice cracked on my name with breathtaking precision. In the old timeline, that crack had ended me. This time, I stood before it could spread. I didn't give you anything. You texted me to bring it. Because you texted me that you found my receipt. Yes, because you dropped it. Inside my bag? Near your bag. Which was in the print studio. Mina, stop twisting. At 10:52 p.m.? Her mouth closed. The staff member looked between us. Professor Lim moved as if to intervene, but the contest director, a severe woman named Director Kong whom I had only seen from a distance before, raised one finger, without looking at him. Let her finish.
My heart slammed.
I opened my folder and took out the printed screenshots. At 1:08 a.m., Vienna CEO wrote that she had my contest receipt and would bring it to the auditorium. She did not say I gave it to her. She said she found it. I placed the screenshots on the desk. At 10:52 p.m., she entered the print studio where my bag was left and removed a receipt from the outer pocket. I have video. A sound moved through the room. Not quite a gasp, more like everyone inhaling the same secret. Vienna's tears spilled immediately. You filmed me? Mina, that's so invasive. So, is searching my bag. I was helping you. By taking what you believed was my only claim proof. You planted it.
There.
The first crack wide enough for daylight. The staff froze. Vienna heard herself after speaking and tried to soften it. I mean, I don't know what's happening. I'm confused. Director Kang's eyes sharpened. If you believed it was planted, Miss CEO, why did you present it as your claim receipt? Vienna's face went still. I wish I could say I enjoyed that moment cleanly, but revenge is never clean when the past still has hands around your throat. Watching Vienna corner herself did not erase what happened to me. It did not unwrite the disciplinary letter from another life, did not stop my mother from ever crying, did not make the crosswalk vanish from memory. It only created a new silence where the old humiliation used to be. Director Kong asked the staff to pause public proceedings and requested both claimants present all materials. Vienna protested that the ceremony should not be disrupted over Mina's emotional misunderstanding. Professor Lim murmured something about reputational care. My mother said, "Whose reputation?" And he shut up. I stepped to the desk and unscrewed my mechanical pencil. A few students leaned forward, confused. The real receipt slid out, creased but intact, blue paper catching the first pale beam of sunrise through the auditorium windows. I unfolded it carefully. The 3 faint aurora watermark stars shimmered behind the number. Receipt no. A 17440. Claim code correct. Timestamp correct. Entry title, Still Warm Tomorrow. The staff scanned it. The machine beeped bright and clean. I had imagined that beep through one death and one impossible night, but the actual sound was smaller than expected, almost ordinary. That made it more beautiful. Verified, the staff member said. Original receipt matches registered entry A17440. Vienna whispered, "No." It was the first honest thing she had said all morning. Director Kong took the receipt, held it beside the decoy, and turned to Vienna. Miss CEO, please explain why you attempted to claim entry A17440 using an altered receipt while stating a different title. Vienna's tears returned, but now they did not fall in graceful lines. They clung under her lashes, making her look younger, angrier. My father should be here, she said. Director Kang's expression did not change. Your father is not a receipt. That sentence rearranged the room. Students who had been afraid to react suddenly looked at one another. Nari bit her knuckle. My mother made a sound that might have been approval or a suppressed bakery curse. Vienna's face flushed pink beneath her careful makeup. You don't understand, she said, and the words came out sharper. My team developed the luxury concept. Mina's entry was similar because we discussed sustainability together. She's making this personal because she's insecure. There was the class difference, polished and dressed as analysis. Similar. Disgust. Insecure. In my last life, those words had been enough because I had only anger to fight them. Now I had process. I opened my folder again. My entry was submitted under Still Warm Tomorrow, 3 days before Vienna's final concept upload. Here are the draft files with timestamps, prototype photos from my mother's bakery, material cost tests, and the original napkin sketch. My campaign focuses on reducing waste for small bakeries using low-cost modular sleeves. Vienna's Golden Morning uses the same fold system, same discount sticker placement, same warmth chart, same slogan structure, but replaces small bakeries with boutique luxury brands. I laid the documents out one by one. Each page landed like a footstep across a bridge I had built in the dark. Vienna laughed once, ugly and disbelieving. Anyone can fake timestamps. Not the bakery's CCTV, my mother said. Everyone looked at her. She reached into her tote and pulled out a USB drive shaped like a croissant because my mother had no sense of dramatic aesthetics, and somehow that made it perfect. She worked on the prototype at my shop last week. Camera shows dates.
Customers saw it.
Suppliers saw it. Flour saw it. Would you like to question the flour? A few students laughed before fear stopped them. Director Kong accepted the USB with both hands, and in that small gesture, I saw the old timeline lose more ground. At 5:36, Vienna's father arrived like a storm that had been delayed by traffic. Deputy Director CO entered through the side doors with 2 foundation staff and the expression of a man accustomed to rooms making space for him. He wore a navy suit, silver tie, no visible panic. In my last life, I had seen him only from afar, hand on Vienna's shoulder, voice low with the contest director before my accusation dissolved. Now he walked directly to Director Kong. I heard there was a verification issue. Not theft. Not fraud. Issue. Director Kong held up the 2 receipts. There is an attempted false claim, a possible entry plagiarism dispute, and recorded evidence of unauthorized removal from another student's bag. Deputy Director CO's eyes moved to Vienna. She had perfected the daughter pose by then. Small, wounded, silent. He looked at me next and performed disappointment as if placing a shawl over my shoulders.
Minahan. Correct.
I know competition pressure can be intense. Before this escalates, perhaps we should discuss what outcome you're hoping for. My mother stepped forward. She is hoping for the contest rules. He glanced at her apron, then away, the dismissal so quick some might call it accidental. I did not. Ma'am, I appreciate your concern, but foundation matters are complex. Bread is complex, my mother said. You still know when someone steals it. Deputy Director CO's jaw tightened. Professor Lim finally found enough courage to be useless. Perhaps a private mediation? No, I said. The word surprised even me. It rang louder than intended, crossing the auditorium, touching every covered poster and tired face. I lowered my volume, but not my gaze. Last time, I stopped. Wrong life. Wrong evidence. I breathed. I mean, cases like this become dangerous when handled privately. The claim happened publicly. The verification failed publicly. The explanation should be recorded. Deputy Director CO's eyes cooled. Are you accusing my daughter of intentional wrongdoing? I'm presenting evidence that she entered the print studio, removed a receipt from my bag, claimed it as hers, blamed me when it failed, and submitted a concept that overlaps my earlier documented work. My voice shook only at the end. Nari whispered, "Good." Director Kong turned to a staff member. "Begin official incident record." Deputy Director CO looked at her sharply.
Kong.
She did not blink. Deputy Director, your family relationship creates a conflict. You should step back from this process immediately. That was when the golden girl realized Dawn did not belong to her. Not fully, not anymore. Until that moment, Vienna had still been waiting for the adult machinery to tilt in her favor. You could see it in the way she endured questions instead of answering them, conserving energy until her father arrived. But when Director Kong named the conflict aloud, when a staff member opened an incident form, when phones around the auditorium began quietly rising despite teachers hissing for them to stop, Vienna's face changed.
Tears dried.
Her lips parted. She looked not heartbroken but robbed, as if fairness were an ambush. "Dad," she said, too quietly for the room and too loudly for him. Deputy Director Seo did not go to her. That was his mistake and his habit. Men like him protect reputations before children. He looked at the staff, the judges, the students calculating. "No one posts anything," he ordered. It was phrased like a policy. It landed like fear. Director Kong said, "Students, please keep devices down while we verify." Notice the difference. He commanded silence. She requested order. The distinction mattered. Vienna swayed, and Jasur rushed forward to hold her arm. In the old timeline, that image would have sealed the narrative. Fragile golden girl supported by loyal friends, while jealous Mina attacked. But this time, the decoy receipt sat under a desk camera. The real receipt had verified, and the theft video waited on my phone. Director Kong asked to view it. I connected my phone to the desk laptop with a cable from Nari's bag because Nari had apparently prepared for every disaster except sleeping. The video appeared on the small monitor first, then, by staff error or divine comedy, projected briefly onto the auditorium screen before someone fumbled with the display settings. For 5 enormous seconds, every person in the room watched Vienna CEO enter the dim print studio, walk to my bag, remove the receipt, and whisper, "Stupid girl." The screen went black. No one spoke. Outside, the sun broke over the building edge. The phrase "stupid girl" did what all my explanations could not. It murdered her kindness in public. Vienna made a sound like she had been physically struck. That was edited. It just projected from her phone, Nari said. With a timestamp, added a photography student from the 3rd row, because apparently even silent witnesses have limits. Jasur released Vienna's arm as if guilt were contagious. Deputy Director Seo's face had gone from controlled to carved. "This is an unacceptable breach of privacy," he said. My mother laughed. Not loudly.
Worse.
"Sir, your daughter searched a bag, stole a receipt, and called my daughter stupid. Privacy is not the first corpse at this table." Director Kang's mouth twitched before she smoothed it. She instructed staff to copy the video into the incident record, preserve hallway security footage, and separate the 2 entries for immediate audit. Professor Lim tried once more to reduce the explosion. "Given the overlap, perhaps both students can be recognized for different aspects while we investigate." "No," said Director Kong, "my mother, Nari, and, to my shock, one of the judges at the same time." The judge was an older man from a packaging firm, famous for scaring finalists into tears during critique. He tapped my cost table with one finger. "This concept is not luxury branding. Whoever converted it into luxury branding misunderstood the entire ethical center of the work." He looked at Vienna's board, still covered on the finalist wall. "That is not collaboration. That is extraction." Extraction. The word landed deep. That was exactly what she had done. She had extracted my labor from my life, stripped away the bakery, the waste, the mothers buying discounted bread after closing shifts, and made it gold enough for sponsors. Vienna's face crumpled, but this time the tears came with anger. "Everyone borrows," she snapped. "Everyone takes inspiration. Mina acts like being poor makes every idea holy." The room froze again. Even Deputy Director Seo closed his eyes. There are truths people like Vienna are never supposed to say where the help can hear. She had mistaken panic for privacy. I expected triumph to feel like fire. Instead it felt like standing after a fever breaks, weak but alive. Director Kong suspended Vienna's claim immediately and moved the ceremony into a closed verification session. The public winner announcement was delayed, which caused frantic whispers among finalists and a visible blood pressure crisis in the foundation staff. Deputy Director Seo stepped aside to make calls. Vienna sat in the front row, no longer surrounded by friends but not entirely abandoned either, just hovered 2 seats away, torn between loyalty and self-preservation. Professor Lim avoided looking at me. My mother fed Nari a chestnut bun, as if adopting her in the middle of institutional collapse. At 6:05, staff led me into a side conference room with Director Kong, two judges, a contest recorder, and one legal compliance officer who looked like she had been summoned from bed and hated all young people equally. They asked me to explain the development of my entry from concept to final submission. In my last life, I had been dragged into a private room to defend myself while sobbing, unsupported, already framed. This time, my mother sat beside me. Nari sat behind me. My evidence lay in order. I spoke slowly. I described bakery waste, my mother's unsold chestnut buns, the way discounted goods embarrassed customers when wrapped in plain plastic bags, the modular sleeve that could adjust to different bread sizes, the warmth chart showing safe consumption windows, the sticker system that preserved dignity instead of screaming clearance. I showed sketches, photos, tests, supplier price comparisons. The packaging judge asked why I had chosen muted orange rather than gold. I said, because the goal was not to make leftover bread look expensive. It was to make it look cared for. He nodded and wrote that down. Through the conference room glass, I saw Vienna arguing with her father near the stage. She pointed once toward me, face twisted. He did not comfort her. He checked his phone. For the first time, I almost pitied her. Almost. Then I remembered stupid girl and let pity pass like bad weather. At 6:40, Director Kong asked the question I had feared. Why did you create a decoy receipt instead of reporting suspicion immediately? The compliance officer looked up. My mother's hand shifted under the table. This was the dangerous part, the place where cleverness could be reframed as manipulation. I could not say because I died once and knew no one would believe me. I could not say because your institution protected her last time. So I told the closest truth that fit this life. Because I did not yet have proof she intended to take it, I said. She had asked to hold my receipt. Then my roommate found her searching our room. I was afraid that if I reported without evidence, it would become her word against mine. I made a copy that could not pass verification and left it where only someone searching my bag would take it. I kept the original safe. I recorded my own property area. I did not ask her to claim with it. She chose that. The compliance officer wrote for a long time. Every scratch of her pen felt like a nail being removed from my past coffin. Director Kong studied me. You understand this will become larger than a prize. It was never just a prize, I said. My voice nearly broke, but I held it. For some students, a scholarship is the difference between staying and leaving. For some families, a public accusation is not gossip. It is rent, customers, debt, food. People with protection treat scandal like weather. People without protection drown in it. No one spoke. My mother looked down at the table, and I saw her blink hard. Director Khan closed the folder. Thank you, Miss Han. In the hallway, as we left the room, Professor Lim waited by the water dispenser, looking like a man who wanted absolution in single-serving size. Mina, he began, I hope you know I never intended. Professor, I said, tired enough to be honest. Intention is what powerful people discuss after impact. I walked past him before he could turn that into a lesson. The audit took 2 hours. During those 2 hours, the auditorium transformed from ceremony hall to rumor furnace. Finalists called parents. Parents called other parents. Teachers whispered near exits. Foundation staff kept saying the announcement would proceed shortly, which convinced exactly no one. Vienna disappeared into a green room with her father, then emerged alone at 7:15 with her makeup repaired and her expression softened back into something usable. I knew the look. She had chosen her next costume, remorse without confession. She approached while my mother was in the restroom and Nari was arguing with a vending machine. For once, Vienna came without followers. She stopped 1 row away. Mina, she said, can we talk like friends? I almost laughed. Were we? Hurt flashed across her face, and for a second I saw how she might sell even that. I know you're angry. I handled things badly. You stole from my bag. I panicked. You tried to claim my entry. Because my father was pressuring me. You don't understand what my life is like. There it was, the rich girl's favorite emergency exit. Suffering as currency, pain as a universal solvent. I looked at her cream blazer, the pearl clip, the hands that had never smelled of dish soap unless for charity campaign photos.
You're right, I said.
I don't understand your life. But you understood enough about mine to steal from it. Her eyes hardened. You think this makes you better than me? No, that answer seemed to confuse her. I stood, taking one step closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. It makes me harder to rob. She swallowed. For the first time all morning, she looked afraid of me, not because I was cruel, but because I had stopped begging to be understood. If this goes public, she whispered, my father will make sure you regret it. My old self would have heard a death sentence. My new self heard evidence. I tilted my phone slightly, screen already recording audio from inside my blazer pocket. Threats before breakfast, Vivi? Her eyes dropped to the pocket. She stepped back. You're insane. No, I said. I'm learning. Nari returned with 2 terrible coffees and caught the last word. Learning what? Audio recording saves lives.
Great.
Put that on the school motto. She handed me a coffee that tasted like burnt cardboard and loyalty. My mother came back moments later, and I did not tell her about the threat because her umbrella was still within reach, and I wanted Vienna alive for the audit. At 8:03, Director Kong requested all finalists, judges, and relevant faculty return to the auditorium. The sky outside was fully bright now, the romantic dawn ceremony long ruined. Good. Some ceremonies deserve to be dragged into daylight without music. We took our seats. Vienna sat with her father on the opposite side, her posture perfect again. Deputy Director Seo looked calm, which meant he had found a strategy. Director Kong stepped onto the stage with a microphone. Thank you for your patience. Due to a verification irregularity involving entry A17440 and a related integrity review, the Aurora Foundation has completed an emergency preliminary audit. The final award decision for the Sustainable Design category will be announced with additional context. The auditorium tightened. She continued. The panel confirms that the original receipt for entry A17440 was presented by Mina Han and successfully verified. The panel also confirms that a separate claimant attempted to present an altered receipt that did not match the registered claim code. She did not say Vienna's name yet. That somehow made it worse. The panel has reviewed timestamp development materials and determined that Mina Han's entry, still warm tomorrow, is the authentic eligible submission associated with the verified receipt. The panel has disqualified the conflicting submission, Golden Morning, pending further investigation for unauthorized use of concept materials and attempted false claim. Now, everyone looked at Vienna. She stared straight ahead. Her father did not move. Director Kong took a breath. Therefore, the Aurora Student Design Award in Sustainable Packaging goes to Mina Han. Applause began unevenly, confused by scandal, then grew as students realized clapping for me was now institutionally safe. The sound washed over me, not warm exactly, but real. My mother made no attempt to remain dignified. She clapped like she was trying to wake ancestors. I walked to the stage because my legs had apparently decided I deserved drama. Every step crossed a ghost. Here was where I had once stumbled forward shouting. Here was where Vienna had once held my trophy. Here was where Professor Lim had once blocked me with his body and called it guidance. Now Director Kong handed me the glass sunrise, heavier than it looked. Cameras clicked, but fewer than planned. The Foundation's publicity team looked like they wanted to crawl into the flower arrangements. I faced the auditorium with the trophy in both hands. In my first life, I had imagined many speeches after losing. Furious speeches, pleading speeches, speeches that made everyone regret doubting me. Now that I had the microphone, I wanted none of them. Revenge had eaten enough of my night. So I said the truth, plain and dangerous. My entry was inspired by my mother's bakery and by every small shop that throws away good food because packaging, pride, and cost do not meet in the middle. Still Warm Tomorrow is for people who work too hard to waste what they make, and for customers who deserve dignity even when buying discounted bread. Thank you to the judges who looked at the process, not just polish. Thank you to my roommate, who stayed awake. Thank you to my mother, who came before sunrise with buns and courage. My mother covered her face. Nari yelled, Worth the sleep loss, and someone laughed. I looked once toward Vienna. And thank you to the contest rule requiring the original receipt. The room understood. Not everyone laughed, but enough did. Vienna stood abruptly. Her chair scraped the floor like a scream. For one wild second, I thought she would rush the stage. Instead, she turned and walked out, her father following after a pause calculated to look voluntary. The doors closed behind them. The applause continued without her. After the ceremony, the morning did not become easy. That is another lie stories tell. Public victory does not mop up private mess. It just gives you a better broom. Director Kong asked me to remain available for the formal investigation. The compliance officer collected copies of my evidence. Mr. Beck appeared near the side door and gave me a tiny nod, which told me the hallway footage had survived. Professor Lim sent an email before noon praising my mature handling of a challenging misunderstanding, and I forwarded it to Nari so we could both scream at the word misunderstanding. My mother reopened the bakery late and sold out by 3 o'clock because Nari posted a photo of my trophy beside the chestnut buns with a caption, "Still warm tomorrow, literally." By evening, half the academy had shared it. The other half pretended they had always liked me. Vienna's official disqualification notice went out quietly, but quiet notices are loud when everyone is listening for them. Her fan club fractured into archaeology teams digging up old rumors. A sophomore remembered Vienna borrowing her color palette. A senior recalled a missing mood board. Someone from another school posted that Golden Morning looked suspiciously like a rejected workshop concept Vienna had admired months earlier. Theft, I learned, is rarely a single lightning strike. It is weather. It repeats until people stop calling rain coincidence. Yet I did not feel celebratory when the post spread. I felt tired. I felt old. I felt 17 and dead and alive all at once. That night, back in our dorm room, Nari taped a paper sign above my desk. Receipts are sacred. Under it, she drew 3 crooked aurora stars. I laughed until I cried. Then I slept for 14 hours with the mechanical pencil under my pillow. The formal investigation lasted 3 weeks, and every week revealed another room behind the room. Vienna had not simply copied my concept after seeing a draft during Open Studio, as I first suspected. She had accessed the shared contest preparation folder using Professor Lim's assistant login, downloaded process images from several students, and built her inspiration archive from other people's unfinished work. Professor Lim insisted he had left his credentials saved on the department computer by accident. Perhaps that was true. Perhaps negligence is just corruption with softer shoes. The foundation suspended him from contest advising pending review. Deputy Director Seo took administrative leave, which rich men do when consequences need upholstery. Vienna withdrew from public classes for health reasons, which I might have respected if her anonymous supporters had not begun posting that I had entrapped her. Entrapment. As if I had lured a starving innocent into my bag with the irresistible scent of stolen paper. The posts hurt more than I wanted to admit. Not because I believed them, but because lies do not need your belief to bruise you. My mother wanted to report every account. Nari wanted to curse them creatively. I wanted, for one afternoon, to be a girl who won a contest and ate shaved ice without checking comment sections. Director Kong called me personally after the worst post went around. "Do not argue online," she said. "The formal report will speak." I almost asked if formal reports could comfort mothers, protect bakeries, or follow girls across campus at night. Instead, I said, "Will it name her?" A pause. "It will name actions. Actions don't act alone." Another pause, longer. "You are not wrong." That was the strange thing about Director Kong. She never overpromised. After a life destroyed by people who smiled too much, I trusted restraint more than warmth. One afternoon during the investigation, I found Vienna in the old print studio. Not breaking in this time. Just standing by the table where she had taken the decoy receipt, staring at the side lamp as if it had betrayed her. I could have left. I should have. But rebirth had made me curious about moments after masks fall. She heard the door and turned. Without makeup, she looked smaller, though not softer. Her eyes were swollen, her hair tied carelessly, cardigan sleeves pulled over her hands. Come to record me again? She asked. I held up both hands. No phone. Liar. Probably smart. She laughed once. You ruined my life. The sentence entered the room and waited for me to carry it. I refused. You built a life that could be ruined by a receipt. Her mouth tightened. You don't know what it's like being me. You keep saying that like it explains why you knew exactly how to hurt me. She looked away first. A small victory, but not a sweet one. My father already told everyone I embarrassed him, she said. He said if I couldn't win cleanly, I should at least have lost quietly. There it was, the family motto carved under the gold. For a second, I saw the machinery that made her. Praise as pressure, love as branding, failure as contamination. It did not excuse her, but it explained why she treated other people's work like spare parts. She had been raised by people who measured worth only after polishing it. I am sorry your father is cruel, I said. Her eyes snapped back. Don't pity me. I don't. I meant it. Pity still places the other person at the center. I was done arranging myself around her damage. She stepped closer. If you had just shared credit, we both could have benefited.
I ser det her, amazed.
You still think the theft was the opportunity. I think you're naive. The world rewards people who know how to package things. Then learn to package your own hunger. Her face flushed. I turned to leave, but she spoke again, quieter. Did you know it was fake when I took it? I looked back. Yes. So you wanted me to fall. I thought of the dawn scanner, the negative tone, the room inhaling truth.
No, Viana.
I wanted you to choose. That answer followed me out. The final report was released on a Friday at 6 p.m. because institutions love burying truth at the edge of weekends and calling it procedure. It confirmed unauthorized access, improper handling of another student's claim materials, significant overlap between Golden Morning and my earlier documented work, and attempted claim using an invalid receipt. It did not use the word theft until the appendix, where Mr. Beck's security footage description made euphemism difficult. It did not call Vienna a golden girl, or a fraud, or a parasite. It called her Respondent A for 18 pages, which somehow made her sound like a disease studied in a lab. Her award eligibility was revoked for 2 years. Professor Lim received disciplinary action for credential negligence and failure to report conflict concerns. Deputy Director Seo resigned from the Foundation Board to preserve trust in the program, a sentence so polished it squeaked. The Academy offered me a supplemental studio grant, a public apology, and counseling services. My mother read the apology 3 times, then said, "They write very long to say sorry very small." She was right, but she framed it anyway and hung it behind the bakery counter beneath a handwritten sign. Original receipts required. Customers loved it. Some came just to take photos. Others bought second morning boxes wrapped in my prototype sleeves, which my mother insisted on testing immediately because practicality waits for no scandal. The design worked, not perfectly at first. The adhesive failed in humidity, and the orange ink smudged on oily pastries, and one elderly customer complained that the warmth chart made her feel judged by bread. I fixed each problem. That was the part Vienna never understood. An idea is not a jewel you steal fully formed. It is a living thing you feed with failure. She had stolen the shine, not the roots. By late summer, Still Warm Tomorrow had grown beyond the contest. The packaging firm Judge connected me with a small manufacturer willing to produce a trial run at reduced cost. 3 neighborhood bakeries joined my mother's shop in testing the sleeves. A food waste nonprofit asked to partner on a student campaign. My internship began not in a glossy corporate office, but in a warehouse that smelled of cardboard, ink, and possibility. I loved it. I loved measuring fold stress, arguing about recycled paper thickness, watching bakery owners handle the sleeves with cautious hope. I loved that the design remained ordinary enough to be useful. Sometimes, during those weeks, I would catch myself smiling for no reason and then panic, as if happiness were a receipt someone might steal. Trauma makes you superstitious. It tells you joy is bait. But each day passed, and no truck headlights came. Each morning, my mother opened the bakery. Each night, Nari sent me memes about office printers. Each time I held the glass trophy, I remembered that winning had not saved me. Preparation had. Evidence had.
People had.
My new life was not a clean replacement for the old one. It was stitched over it, seam by seam, with some places still tender. I still flinched when someone asked to borrow my things. I still photographed important documents twice. I still woke before dawn some mornings with my hand under my pillow, searching for a pencil. But I also learned to walk past the auditorium without tasting rain. I learned to let classmates apologize without comforting them for their guilt. I learned to say, "You should have asked questions then," and leave it there. The strangest apology came from Jisoo. She found me outside the materials lab in September, holding a paper bag for my mother's bakery like a peace offering and a shield. "I didn't know," she said immediately. I looked at the bag. Chestnut buns. Smart. Manipulative? Maybe. Delicious? Definitely. "You followed me during the fire alarm," I said. She winced. "Vienna told me you were unstable and might destroy evidence because you were jealous." "And you believed her." "I wanted to. That stopped me more than any excuse would have." Jisoo stared at the floor. Being near her made things easier. Teachers remembered my name.
Seigneur invité de me place.
People laughed at my jokes when she laughed first. I think I knew something was wrong, but knowing would have made me responsible. There it was again. Not innocence, but cowardice with self-awareness. In my last life, I had imagined everyone who abandoned me as purely cruel because that made the wound simpler. This life kept complicating things. I did not owe Jisoo forgiveness. I also did not need to carry her forever. "What do you want from me?" I asked. She swallowed. "Nothing. I just wanted to say I'm sorry without making you say it's okay." That was, unfortunately, the correct answer. I took the paper bag. "It's not okay." She nodded. "I know, but the buns are accepted." She almost smiled. "Your mom said to heat them for 20 seconds. "My mom spoke to you?" She interrogated me with tongs. That sounded right. We stood in awkward silence, two girls shaped differently by the same golden orbit. Finally, Jisoo said, "For what it's worth, Vienna transferred." I already knew. Rumor said an overseas program. Quiet exit, clean paperwork, consequences with luggage. "That is worth very little," I said. Jisoo nodded again and left. I ate one bun in the lab and saved one for Nari. Forgiveness did not arrive. Peace maybe stood at a distance and checked its watch. Months later, the Aurora Foundation invited me to speak at the Winter Showcase. Not as a scandal survivor, officially. As a young designer whose contest project had entered community production. Unofficially, every person in that hall knew receipts had teeth now. Director Kong met me backstage and handed me a new badge. "No claim desk this time," she said. "Just a speech." "Dangerous," I said. "Speeches can be forged." She smiled faintly. "Not yours, I suspect." I wore a simple black dress my mother altered at the waist. Low heels Nari claimed made me look lawsuit elegant, and the pearl earrings my mother had bought from a street stall because she said real pearls were unnecessary when fake ones behaved honestly. Before stepping on stage, I stood in the wings and saw the auditorium washed in evening light instead of dawn. The glass doors reflected a taller version of me than the girl who had died in rain, or maybe just a girl finally standing upright. My speech was supposed to be about sustainable design implementation, but halfway through the slides, I changed it. Pattern interruption, as Nari would say. I looked at the audience of students, sponsors, teachers, and parents and said, "Before I talk about packaging, I want to talk about proof." The room shifted. Director Kong looked at me sharply, but she did not stop me. "We tell students to be creative, collaborative, generous. Those are good things. But generosity without boundaries becomes a hunting ground. Collaboration without records becomes extraction. Trust without accountability becomes a stage where the most protected person wins. So keep drafts. Keep timestamps.
Keep receipts.
Not because everyone is a thief. Because your work deserves a memory stronger than someone else's version of events." No one clapped at first.
Good.
I had not said it for applause. Then, somewhere near the back, my mother started. Nari followed. The sound spread, steadier than the dawn applause, less confused, more chosen. After the showcase, a first-year student approached me with the portfolio hugged to her chest. She had round glasses, bitten nails, and the haunted look of someone who apologized to furniture after bumping into it. "Senior Mina," she said, "can I ask something?" I braced for contest questions. Instead, she whispered, "How do you know when someone is taking inspiration from you versus taking from you?" I looked at her portfolio, at the smudges on her fingers, at the fear she had not yet learned to disguise. Once, I would have given a soft answer. Be kind. Share carefully. Trust your friends. Now I knew better than soft answers that leave girls defenseless. Inspiration adds a window, I said. Theft removes your door. She frowned, thinking. I continued. If they credit you, invite you into the process, and make something that could not exist without their own experience, maybe it's inspiration. If they ask for your files but not your thoughts, copy your structure but erase your reason, or make you feel selfish for wanting your name attached, protect yourself. She nodded slowly. What if they're popular? I smiled, not happily. Especially then. She bowed and ran off to her friends, clutching her portfolio tighter. My mother came up beside me, holding a plate of sponsor pastries with the disappointment of a professional. Too dry, she said. The croissant tastes lonely. Can croissants be lonely? This one has no butter friends. I laughed, and the sound startled me because it came easily. My mother watched me with that expression parents have when they are trying not to touch a bruise. You did well, she said. At the speech. At staying. My throat closed. She pretended not to notice and criticized another pastry until I could breathe again. I saw Vienna only once after that. It was the following spring, at a city design exhibition where Still Warm Tomorrow had a small booth between a compostable cup startup and a student project about bus stop shade. I was adjusting a display sleeve when the crowd thinned, and there she was across the aisle, hair shorter, blazer darker, no pearl clip. She looked less golden, which is not the same as less dangerous. For a moment, neither of us moved. The old script rustled somewhere under my skin. She approaches, smiles, asks to talk. I tense. Record, prepare. Instead, she gave the smallest bow. Not apology. Not friendship. Acknowledgement, maybe. I returned it with the same shallow angle. Then a woman beside her asked a question about another booth, and Vienna turned away. That was all.
No confrontation. No dramatic collapse.
No final confession under rain. Some villains do not vanish into prison or poverty or madness. Some transfer schools, change hairstyles, learn better tactics, or maybe, if life is generous in a way mine was not, learn shame slowly. I did not need to know which path she took. Her story had consumed enough of mine. I went back to my booth and explained the sleeve system to a bakery owner from Incheon who wanted to reduce waste without making customers feel like bargain hunters. He ordered a trial batch. Later, Nari asked if seeing Vienna made me want to throw a display stand. I considered it. Only a small one. Growth, Nari said solemnly. Last year you would have thrown the trophy. Last year I was dead. She paused, then linked her arm through mine. Still growth. We bought street tteokbokki after closing, and I burned my tongue because reborn women can still be idiots around spicy rice cakes. The ordinary pain delighted me. The anniversary of the Dawn claim arrived quietly. I expected the date to roar. Instead, it slipped into my phone calendar between a supplier meeting and Nari's birthday dinner. June 18th. 1 year since receipt verification. 1 year since I watched Vienna lose the prize claim at dawn. 1 year since the world split differently. I woke before sunrise anyway. Some part of me had kept the appointment. I dressed without turning on the light, took the original receipt from the small frame on my desk, and walked to the bakery. My mother was already there, kneading dough by the window, because mothers and bakers both understand that dawn is not symbolic, it is labor. She did not ask why I came. She set a cup of barley tea on the counter and kept kneading. Outside, the street was blue and empty. The first bus sighed past. I held the receipt up to the window. The ink had faded slightly despite the frame, but the number remained. A 17440. The watermark stars were almost invisible now. Proof, like bread, changes with time. That frightened me once. Now it felt like instruction. You cannot preserve every receipt forever. Eventually, you must build a life where the truth is not trapped in one fragile object. My mother dusted flour from her hands and came to stand beside me. "Do you still need it?" she asked. I thought about the pencil under my pillow, the backups, the report, the apology, the packaging sleeves stacked in boxes, the younger student guarding her portfolio, the bakery owners using my design, the speech, the applause, the ordinary mornings. "Not the same way," I said. My mother nodded. Then she took the receipt, placed it gently on the counter, and set a fresh second morning sleeve beside it. "Old proof," she said. "New proof." I laughed softly. "That sounds like one of your signs." "Good. I will charge myself consulting fee." At 5 a.m., the exact hour the claim desk had opened a year earlier, we unlocked the bakery door.
No yayis guatid. No scanners beeped.
No golden girl stood with stolen paper under stage lights. Just the smell of dough, the hum of refrigerators, the city stretching awake. A delivery driver came first, buying 2 buns and asking if the discount boxes were ready because his daughter liked the orange sleeves. Then an elderly woman came for yesterday's costella, saying the warmth chart made her feel scientifically loved, now that I had changed the wording. Then a student from Hanyang rushed in, late for critique, and knocked over the umbrella stand while apologizing to it. Ordinary people, ordinary hunger, ordinary proof that my life had moved past the moment that once ended it. At 5:43, my phone buzzed with a message from Director Kong. The Foundation Board approved the student intellectual property policy revisions. Public announcement next week. Your recommendations were included. I stared at the screen until my mother leaned over. "Good news." "Yes," I said. "They changed the rules." She sniffed. "Rules are dough. Someone must punch them before they rise properly." That, too, sounded like a sign. I stepped outside with my tea as the sun lifted over the street, turning shop windows gold. For a second, the light looked like the glass trophy, like the receipt watermark, like Vienna's old hair clip, like headlights. My body remembered fear, but it did not obey. I breathed through it. Dawn had once been a deadline, then a battlefield, then a ceremony. Now it was simply morning.
Mine.
People always ask, in stories like this, whether revenge was worth it. They want a clean moral tied with ribbon. Yes, because she deserved it, or no, because revenge makes you empty. The truth is less decorative. Hiding my real contest receipt did not heal me. Watching Vienna lose the prize claim did not make me pure. It did not turn suffering into wisdom overnight or make every witness brave. But it gave the truth enough time to arrive before the lie took the microphone. It taught me that kindness without self-protection is not virtue. It is an unlocked door in a school full of hands. It taught me that evidence is not cynicism, that boundaries are not cruelty, that a girl can be generous and still keep her original receipt hidden where thieves cannot reach. Most of all, it taught me that my work was never valuable because someone golden wanted it. It was valuable because it came from my life, my mother's bakery, our unsold bread, our rent notices, our stubborn little mornings, our refusal to throw away what could still feed someone. Vienna lost at dawn because she arrived with stolen paper and no roots. I won because I finally understood that proof is not just what you hold up at the claim desk. Proof is who shows up before sunrise. Proof is the roommate who stays awake, the janitor who saves footage, the mother who closes her bakery to stand beside you, the old sketch stained with red bean, the design that keeps working after the applause ends. So yes, I hid my real contest receipt. I hid it in a broken pencil, under fear, behind patience, inside a plan sharp enough to survive the golden girl's smile. And when dawn came, she held up the fake future she stole from my bag, watched the scanner reject her, and finally learned what I had died once to understand. Some prizes are not lost when someone takes them. Some prizes wait quietly with their rightful owner, folded small, burning blue, ready for morning.